Hello, welcome back to the Breaking News Update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I've got breaking news coming out from Ukraine to share with you guys, and we're also going to talk about President elect Donald Trump in today's video. As we've been hearing over the last month or so, that Donald Trump could potentially pull out from supplying military aid over to Ukraine. We've also been hearing that he might even pull the U.S. out of NATO and also maybe force some NATO nations to start upping their defense spending. Well, I've got some information regarding all this now to share with you guys. We've got this new story on the screen here. Trump admin intends to continue military aid to Ukraine once in office. Okay, so that's very big. So we've got that question answered now. So it looks like Donald Trump and his administration, once they get into the White House in January, they will continue to supply military aid to Ukraine, but they're also going to continue pursuing ending this war. Okay, so two major things to answer right there. And then also in terms of NATO, we're also hearing that he will demand NATO members to boost to 5% of GDP for defense spending. Okay, most NATO members right now are somewhere around like 2%. Some are as high as 3, like the United States, I think like 3.5%, somewhere around there. But he's going to be requiring all NATO members to push to 5% of defense spending. Okay, so that's very big news in regards to NATO. And I want to show you guys this report coming out from the Financial Times. So we're going to go over this entire report here. It says Trump wants 5% NATO defense spending target, Europe told. U.S. President-elect's closest foreign policy aides indicate he will continue arming Ukraine while pursuing end to war. Okay, so here's a picture of Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. And it says down here, Donald Trump's team has told European officials that the incoming U.S. president will demand NATO member states increase defense spending to 5% of GDP, but plans to continue supplying military aid to Ukraine. The U.S. president's-elect's closest foreign policy aides shares his intentions in discussions with senior European officials this month, according to people familiar with the talks, as he firms up his policies towards Europe and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. During his White House campaign, Trump vowed to cut off aid to Ukraine, force Kyiv into immediate peace talks, and leave NATO allies undefended if they fail to spend enough on defense, spooking European capitals. But in a boost for allies deeply concerned over their ability to support and protect Ukraine without Washington's backing, Trump now intends to maintain U.S. military supplies to Kyiv after his inauguration, according to 3 other people briefed on the discussions with Western officials. At the same time, Trump is to demand NATO more than double its 2% spending target, which only 23 of the alliance's 32 members currently meet, to 5%. 2 people briefed on the conversation said. One person said they understood that Trump would settle for 3.5% and that he was planning to explicitly link higher defense spending and the offer of more favorable trading terms with the U.S. It's clear that we are talking about 3% or more for NATO's June summit in the Hague summit, said another European official briefed on Trump's thinking. NATO allies are already in discussions about increasing the target to 3% at that meetings of leaders in June, but many capitals are concerned about the difficult fiscal decisions that would be required to do so. According to White House's Office of Management and Budget, the U.S. will spend about 3.1% of GDP on defense in 2024. During the last year of Trump's first presidency in 2020, Pentagon spending hit 3.4%. Key European NATO allies, including France, Germany, the UK, Italy, and Poland, met NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Brussels on Wednesday night to discuss how the continent would adapt defense policies in response to Trump's return. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz separately had a telephone call with Trump on Thursday during a summit of EU leaders. Scholz later told reporters that he was quite confident that the U.S. and Europe will continue their support to Ukraine. Senior British security officials traveled to Washington earlier this month to assess the president-elect's plans. While Trump still believes Ukraine should never be given membership of NATO and wants an immediate end to the conflict, the president-elect believed that supplying weapons to Kyiv after a ceasefire would ensure a peace-through-strength outcome, they added. So it looks likely as well that even if a ceasefire comes into play, we will continue to see weapons going to Ukraine. So that's very big news too. After 24 hours of meetings with NATO and EU leaders in Brussels this week, Zelensky said on Thursday that European pledges to defend Ukraine would not be sufficient without U.S. involvement. Okay, so it looks like Donald Trump has heard Volodymyr Zelensky in terms of that, as it looks like he's not going to cut off supply to Ukraine at all. Okay, so we have been hearing some parts of Donald Trump's plan as well from some of his team, that what they may do is kind of force Russia to negotiate. And if they try to delay or back out or anything like that, they might increase military aid over to Ukraine and help them potentially win this war, is kind of what we've been hearing. So it looks like the aid is not going to get cut off. And also NATO is going to be required to up their defense spending to 5% of GDP. So that's very big also for NATO. That's going to be massive amounts of spending for military needs. So also I want to show you guys this real quick on the BBC. It says defense spending by NATO countries in Europe as percent of GDP. So we have this kind of map in this chart to kind of show you guys how much certain members of NATO are spending. So we have 3% and above, which are these kind of darker brown nations. We have Greece, Poland, Latvia, and Estonia spending 3% and above. 2.5% to 2.99 would be only Lithuania. And then we can see a good majority of them are right around 2% to 2.49% for these other kind of like lighter pink or darker pink, I guess I should say, kind of like a darker pink for these nations that are doing 2 to 2.49%, and then less than 2%, some of these countries like Spain and Italy, some other smaller nations here, okay? So majority of them are doing 2% or more, but there are even a few that are doing less, okay? So many of these countries are going to be forced to up to 5%, okay? So that's going to be very difficult for many of these nations over here that might already be struggling economically. They're going to be pushed to 5% of GDP defense spending, okay? So very big report coming out today that I wanted to get you guys caught up on. And that's going to be it for today's update. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. If you got something out of this update, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. With that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.